All right, everyone. I'm here with a very special guest today. I am here with my friend Amanda Almodovar. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Almodovar. That's
Yes. There you go. Second time's
I
better.
knew the first one. I knew I wasn't going to say it. Almodovar. I knew I
There
was
you
going to
go.
get it wrong. But I wanted to have you on the podcast today. So thank you so much for joining me. I know we haven't really known each other for too long, but I straight to the point. I think you're a badass. If you don't
Oh,
know anything about Amanda, I'll let her explain herself since she could do it better than me. But you are an IFBB pro
yes.
bodybuilder, but you also teach tiny humans for a
I
living.
do. I do. I do. A little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So how would you describe yourself if somebody to my listeners, give me your best elevator pitch. Who are you?
Um, hmm. I am, I guess, someone who loves a lot, and everything I do, I put all of myself in. So when it comes to training, when it comes to teaching, when it comes to being with family, like I really just one of my closest friends described me as like, Amanda, you don't do anything with like 90% or just 100%, you just do 110, like always.
Oh,
So it can be a good thing and a bad thing. Like I say that for most people, but yeah, I love hard, I love family, I love my friends. Training is just awesome and teaching is awesome. So I love to be like well-rounded. I don't think that there's any avenue that I like put more effort in than any other pretty much. So
so how did you I'm sure some of my listeners probably know, but some of them don't. So I guess my first question for you is what does IFBB stand for? Like being an IFBB pro, what does that mean? And what are the qualifications?
okay. So being a pro, well, IFBB stands for International Federation of Bodybuilding. So as a pro, there's many steps that you need to go through in order to get there. Your first thing, like let's say like you want to compete tomorrow and you say, okay, I want to get my pro card. I want to become a pro. You would have to compete in a regional show. If you place in that regional show top five, you qualify to go to nationals. And then at nationals, that's when you compete for your pro card. So usually either one or two gets their pro card, and then they can move on into their career as a pro, which is where I'm at right now. Thankfully, in December, I got my pro card. So yeah, super, super exciting. I'm very, very young in the game, so that excites me even more. And so right now I'm just kind of like growing, recomping, really making sure that like I put on the size necessary in order for me to be competitive at the pro level, because I'm going to be a little fish in a big pond now, and I just need to really, really focus and make sure that the growth that I'm making right now is going to be really beneficial and substantial in order for me to compete at that level and hang. So
So what division are you figure?
I'm figure. Yep.
So
Hmm.
I'm sure. So I have a lot of my listeners are people that are getting into the gym and stuff. So
Hmm.
don't necessarily know too much about this space. So I know, but what is the difference between figure and somebody who does bikini? Because I feel like a lot of what we see on social media is just like the bikini girls, but there are other
Hmm.
divisions people might not know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's several divisions. So, and that goes for men as well. But for females, it starts with bikini. Bikini is a very slender look, a lean look, but not too hard, right? Not enough, like not a lot of striations. They're kind of a little bit, more full. And the focus is basically there on like very feminine, as well as just like a good focus on the glutes, and good proportions. And then if you move up to figure, or I guess you could say wellness would kind of be closest to bikini. Wellness, they're also looking for glutes, but they're basically looking for like your lower half to be just spot on, and your lower half is larger than your upper half. So they're still looking for obviously, a good upper body, but like they're more so like wellness girls have crazy huge legs.
Mhm.
So that's actually a division that I did cross over in at nationals. I had no idea I was going to cross over. It was literally like 3 weeks before, and I had done a regional show, and the judges basically said that they wanted me to cross over. They thought that it would be a good suit for me to kind of see where I'm at. So I did, and then I placed third, which was literally awesome. I was like
Yeah.
one spot away from a double pro card, so that was crazy. I learned the posing in 2 weeks, so that was even crazier.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience. Wellness is really, really fun, and like those girls train their butts off. So and then figure is the division that I'm in. So basically in figure, they're looking for symmetry. They're looking for, femininity. They're looking for grace and posing. But most importantly, they're looking for like an X frame.
Okay.
So they're looking for big shoulders, big quads, and just a really, really slim waist, which usually means a huge back. So a lot that they're looking for, but like I think that it's a really, really beautiful division because it's kind of like that mix, like you said, of like badass, but like beautiful badass at the
Yeah.
same time. I like describe it as basically like a female action figure.
Oh, I
At
like
like
that
at
way
like
to
a
say it.
pageant almost. It's really, really cool. And then there's two more divisions. There's women's physique, which is above figure, which
Okay.
is even more muscular. And at this point they like take their heels off and their posing routines are barefoot, so
Okay.
it's really, really pretty. Like it's a little bit more of a focus on like the arts and like act of posing. And then there's women's bodybuilding, which is even bigger. So it's the really wide variety of like spaces where your body works and where your genetics work in order to fit that category. And I know that a lot of people that are gym goers say like, oh, I want to compete, but they don't really know that there are many, many different divisions. There's many different things that they're looking for in order to score. And it really depends on your body and what it fits best. So
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that there was the last two, the bodybuilding and what'd you say, figure?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't know about that. So
yeah.
how did you get into all of this? And
Yeah.
when? Like how long have you been going at this? Because if people I'm sure are gonna look at you on Instagram or something, but you're pretty jacked at this.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, so I have been a lifelong athlete. I played like softball, soccer, and basketball, all varsity sports in high school. I then went on to play 4 years of college softball at Mount St. Mary College. So I was like their center fielder and first in the lineup, and I loved it. But then like around my junior year of college, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna graduate next year. Like I'm gonna have to hang the cleats up, and then what?
Yeah,
What am I gonna do?
yeah.
So I was always into like weightlifting and like training for the focus of being a performance athlete for softball. But then I really noticed myself like really taking love to how strong I was. I was like pretty fast on all my teams, pretty strong on all my teams. So I knew that there was something different there. And I actually met a friend at a gym. She was competing in bikini, and she was just like, you should totally try it, like you have a physique that I feel like you could take it and go there. So I was really between like doing powerlifting or bodybuilding. And so my college coaches were like, yeah, you're not powerlifting because like there's really a big risk of injury.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I tried to take the safer route, even though it's not, it has its harmful effects as well. But so yeah, I just started like my junior year, I started getting into a prep. I did it like most people do. Like I didn't do it to the fullest. I wasn't the best of the best at the
Yeah.
beginning, I had a lot to learn. I was a young athlete. But yeah, I did a first show my junior year of college and I fell in love. And then from
Awesome.
there, I've been doing it ever since. So that's like, I think my first show was at 19 and now I'm 25.
That's pretty young. I
So
love
yeah,
hearing people's like origin gym stories, like
yeah,
especially seeing like how far because now you have your pro card. Like I love hearing where people started and what got them into it.
yeah.
And it's like
It's
it's
so
I
cool
don't
to
know,
look
it's
back.
cool. Yeah, it's cool to look back and look at everything you've done. But I talk a lot. I feel like I talk a lot about it on my page, and then I try to talk about it a lot on my podcast that you and I are similar in the fact that we do a lot with the gym and that takes up a lot of time, but we also still have full-time jobs.
Mhm.
A lot of people kind of struggle to find that balance. Especially you're someone that has to go into work 5 times a week. Like there is no remote
Mhm.
working for you. So how do you find time to go to the gym and not feel overwhelmed by it?
Yeah,
Because I'm sure at this point you're probably like me where it's routine. Like you just
right.
go. But a lot of people get overwhelmed at just finding the time.
Yeah, it is hard. I think that no matter what you do, no matter how busy you are, like there's always going to feel like there's never enough time. Like even on days where you're doing nothing and it's a rest day and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to hang out in the house. I'm going to lay down. I'm going to do nothing. The time goes like this.
Yep.
So no matter what, you're always going to feel like you don't have enough time. But for me, I'm like very type A. So I like to have everything like structured out. Everything's routine. Like every day is Groundhog's Day for me. So once I found that kind of like click, I was like, okay, so this is what I do and this is how I do it. So usually that looks like me waking up obviously in the morning.
Mhm.
When I'm in prep, I do fasted cardio. So usually that would be like a 5, 6 a.m. wake up basically in order for me to do my cardio. And then in order for me to like get ready for work, I try to look like a human. It's hard,
Yeah.
hard some
Same.
days because I'm like, oh, I wish I remember like teaching remote. It was like the best.
Yeah.
I'd be like dress shirt on the top and like
Yeah.
pajamas on the bottom.
People can't really tell how much makeup you have on
Yes.
Zoom. Yeah.
Yes. They can't tell how much of a mess you are. So
Oh,
it's
no.
like, I really miss being behind that screen some days, even though
Yeah.
I love being with my students. But
Yeah.
um, so yeah, like try and look like a human, show up to work, teach them all day. And then after that, I usually like we're, allowed to go at 3:45. I like book it out of there to
Yeah.
go home. I make my next meal. Usually I have a lot of things prepped because it's just easier for me to
Yeah.
be able to weigh things out and then eat and go.
Yeah.
So my life is kind of on the run. But then after that, I'll go train. So depending on how long I'm training, it's usually anywhere from like an hour to 3 sometimes if I'm doing like legs, which just takes longer,
Yeah.
and plus cardio. And then after that, it's basically like prep for the next day. Go
Yeah.
home, shower, make sure my meals are cooked and weighed out for the next day because I have to take my first 2 to work.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like that revolving, like you said, like setting those routines that are in place to make it easier. Because if I don't have an opportunity to just grab and go, it's very easy to fail.
I think
So,
that that's the hardest. The hardest part is definitely getting yourself in the routine. But
mhm,
I live the way that you live, where I'm very grab and go.
yeah.
And that's why, I mean, like, honestly, any working adult is. And
Mhm,
that's why fast food is so popular in America because
mhm,
you can grab it and it's so cheap. So for me, I think that I, one thing that really helps me stay on track and just be like a healthy human being is meal prepping. And a lot of people
mhm,
think that means, oh, you have to eat the same dinner every single day. But meal prepping can be as easy as, just cook your chicken on
mhm.
Sunday and then decide what you want to do with it like
Yep.
the rest of the week.
Yeah. It's always better to be prepared, over prepared than under, just because like you'll thank yourself later,
Mhm.
you know? So
Yeah.
it's just easier that way. And plus you get more done that way, I feel like, and like your stress levels are lower. So it's just when I'm not prepared, I'm a different person than when I am. So
I need to be
I'm
prepared.
like, I don't want to be that girl where I'm like overwhelmed, anxiety, stress. So I'm like, let me just set myself up for success rather than failure.
Yeah. So what do you do on the days? Because I've had days like this and I don't work with small people, but
Mhm.
I'm sure that working with children can sometimes just test you.
It feels like you go in as a balloon, and then when you when you leave, you're just deflated in the best type of way, though.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I go in with my hair like all nice, and then I leave with like my bun like on the side of my head. Like this was my
Oh,
day.
what grade do you teach? Was it kindergarten or?
Kindergarten.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. My best friend teaches kindergarten too in like a
She
blended
probably has great
classroom.
stories.
Yeah, she'll be like, we taught them the alphabet today. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's just real interesting.
Oh my gosh. So what do you do? Or what do you tell yourself on the days where you just had it and you're like, I'm so freaking tired. All
Yeah.
I want to do right now is go home from work and crawl into my pajamas.
Yeah. Yep. So I do one of two things. Which is this is the case. Well, in off season, if I can structure it where like let's say I really had a horrible day, my rest day is either the next day or the day after that, I'll switch.
Yeah.
Like if I listen to my body and I feel like it's really just, you know what I mean, I could just switch because tomorrow's my rest day anyways, so I'll just get some rest and then train on a better day. But if that can't happen, then I really just kind of like gotta just do it. Like I a lot of people are like, oh, how do you stay motivated and how do you
Yeah.
just keep doing it? And I'm just like, I am not motivated all the time.
Yeah.
There is no one who is, there are not Olympians, there is not a Mr. Olympia, there is no one who is motivated all the time. Most of the time, perhaps I feel like I don't want to be there. Like some days I'm in my head, I have things to do. I'm in my head mentally about how I look or how I want to look, or I don't feel strong that day. Like realistically, there are so many factors leading you away from that gym door. But I always say, like, the heaviest thing in the gym is the door. Once you walk in and you start and you get in that zone, you're literally so blessed and thankful for it afterwards. So on my worst days, I literally am just like, I will feel better when I leave here, even if it's not up to par as to what I thought it was going to be. I'm going to feel better that I accomplished it. I checked the list off. I did what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? Because you're just going to feel worse if you don't. And then it always comes like, oh, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. And that's when people fall off their journeys.
I love that you said that, because that is the number one thing I say. I say it to my clients. I say it to anyone who will listen to me. My phrase or whatever is, you're never going to leave the gym wishing you didn't go.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you're right. There are days where I'm like, especially the days that I work in person, where I'm like, it would be so much easier right now if I went home and just crawled
Mm-hmm.
into my bed and put on whatever show I want to watch. But once you get in there and once you start the workout,
Yep.
you have your music in, you kind of just fall into it.
Mm-hmm.
And for
You
me,
really
it's like,
do.
once I get a good pump going, I'm like, all right,
Yes.
keep
A good pump
going.
will change anything. Quote that.
Seriously.
It really will.
Oh,
It'll
it
save your
will.
whole day.
A
It's
good pump and a good outfit.
yes.
That's what it
Yep.
is.
Yep.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, because obviously, I mean, we met because we started doing some photo shoots together and stuff. And I think that you put together a really good example of being someone who's strong and looks strong physically, but also is beautiful and
Mm-hmm.
feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you get a lot of backlash on? Because I know, like, there's people, and like, I'm not the most jacked person on the earth, but I get it all the time from random people on the internet. Girls shouldn't lift weights, or like, your arms are too big and stuff like that. Is that something you have experienced?
Um, yes, it's thankfully throughout my career, like, and to getting where I am now, I've gotten more positives than negatives, but for sure I've heard things like it's so funny because I was working with Black Magic, which is a supplement company, pre-workouts and all that stuff. And so I was working with them and I had done a photo shoot with Ty,
Yeah.
and it was for Black Magic. I was in the gym of Iron Revolution. I was shredded to the bone. I was like, I think like 2 weeks out of my regional show or whatever. And so I'm just like taking these pictures or whatever with the supplements or whatever. And so Black Magic used it as a Facebook ad.
Mhm.
So literally within 24 hours, I saw it on my Facebook. It popped up. I wasn't looking for it. And I was like, wow. And I saw that it caught fire. It had like hundreds of comments on it and all that. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Let me look at the comments.
Yeah.
When I tell you, there was comments like, whose boyfriend is this? Like, just I wonder what she's running, just like all this just stupidity of like random, probably old men who are
Yeah.
sitting at home on their couch eating their Cheetos and really upset that I look the way that I do. So to like all girls out there, or like who are wanting to have that muscle, who are wanting to have that look and are quote unquote scared to get too bulky, 9 times out of 10, the person who is giving you that like negative comment looks nowhere even remotely close to what you do. They do not work as remotely close to how hard you work. And it's solely based off of jealousy or intimidation that you have emasculated them. And as for women, it really upsets me when women get involved, because we should all be, loving each other and kindness and sweet harmony, but the world doesn't work that way. So I definitely have gotten things like that before. Um, I think I've always just kind of responded them as far as like laughing, because
Yeah.
it's just genuinely, I love the way that I look and that's all that matters.
That's
And
all. I
that's
like that you said
yeah.
it's really funny how upset some people will get, like genuinely frustrated with the way that
For
you
real.
look, not,
Yes.
and
Like
you don't even know them.
I was looking through those comments and I'm like, could you imagine in your brain taking the time out of your day
You're so
to
frustrated.
comment on this young girl's photo? Sir, you are 50. Please
Yeah.
go to your children and like hang out with them or do something.
It's a
Like
good
you are
reminder that
really,
you're a good person, because you're like,
I'm like,
God, like, I can't imagine getting that worked up over the way
I
someone
know.
looks.
I'm like, wow, I really upset Bob today.
You did. You did.
Poor
And
Bob is really pissed that I exist.
yeah.
I'm like,
I think a
whatever.
lot of girls, because I like how you said like there I can't even count the amount of times I've heard like that I don't train upper body because I don't want to look bulky, or like I do this instead of that because I don't want to look bulky. I
Mhm,
don't think that people realize that to put on muscle mass and stuff,
mhm,
it takes a specific diet and training
mhm.
plan and a lot of work and time. You're not just going to pick
Yes.
up weights and eat your protein and grow massive
Nope.
shoulders.
Nope. Nope, not for sure you're not. A lot of people think like, oh, if I, weight train or if I train too hard or if I'm not always just doing cardio, I'm gonna get bulky and I don't want to look the way that those girls look. And I'm like, not for nothing, you will not look the way
It's
that I look
yeah.
because I've been doing this for a certain amount of time. And when I tell you I've been doing it intensely, that means blood, sweat, and tears legitimately in the gym in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Like training in ways that I'm telling you are just gruesome. And I'm still not where I want to be. So for those girls who are thinking that that's what's going to happen, weight training is not automatically going to give you cap delts and a huge back. I wish it did because I'd be bigger than I am. But
Me
for those
too.
girls who are scared of that, like I really do say weight training is so beautiful. Like these, like just women in general, I feel like we are in this era now where like the muscle mommy era, like people are actually enjoying muscle on females and all that stuff. And I'm all about it because I'm just like, I wish this happened years ago when I first started and I wanted to be this and I felt uncomfortable. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I just feel like we're in an era now where people are more supportive.
Yeah. I
And
think
if they're
social
not,
media has done a lot of good for
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Whereas, I mean, especially on TikTok, because there's so many, I mean, there's so much harmful stuff that happens on TikTok too, but I've seen a lot of people not necessarily sharing any workouts or anything, but just showing themselves off in their athletic, like muscular, healthy bodies.
Mhm,
And more people are getting exposed to like that instead of, the early 2000s where all you wanted to do was like be skinny. And then
mhm.
there's phases where it's like all you wanted to be was curvy. I
Yep.
think you're right that this is, I think girls are starting to realize in this day and age, like it's trendy to be strong.
Yeah, I think it really popped off after COVID, to be honest with you, because I think that everyone was like cooped up in their house, they're inside. And that's when we started like figuring out how to work out at home and people started recording themselves working out. And then I feel like when we all went back to the gym and gyms opened up, because we had lost the gym, now it became like I don't know a single person that doesn't at least have just a gym membership and
Yeah,
go at least once a week. You know what I mean? Even your average people are still going to the gym and training. So I like to see it. I'm happy about it,
me
so
too.
long as people are being respectful.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah.
But
I
that's
think that's
another
like a
thing.
good point to touch on too. And I try and remind people, I'm at the gym 5 to 6 days a week. And like you said, like when you're training, you're putting like your blood, sweat, and tears,
Yeah.
like literal tears
Hmm.
into it. But you don't have to go to the gym and be that extreme. You
Hmm.
don't need to put your blood, sweat, and tears
Hmm.
into every single workout to be a healthy human being.
Hmm.
I think it's recommended 150 minutes of intentional physical exercise
Hmm.
a week to be a healthy human being. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people get overwhelmed with seeing like, a lot of competitors or people like me who just post like that's really all I do because I don't have many other hobbies.
Hmm.
Honestly.
I always say like everyone has their niche, right? Like just because I am competing in an extreme sport doesn't mean that everyone else has to do that. Like you need to just find your way of movement that makes you happy. If that's yoga, so be it. If that's going for a walk, so be it. So long as you're moving your body in a way that's empowering you and making you a better person, then that's your niche. That's like your thing. And
I
so
100%
that's,
agree.
yeah, yeah.
I have said that so many times on my podcast, on my Instagram. I love weightlifting. That is like my number one form of exercise. But one of my best friends loves bar. I've
Mhm,
said it a million times. She's a huge Pure Bar person, and she never pressures me to go and do Pure Bar. I never pressure
mhm,
her to come to the gym because she's moving her body and
mhm.
she loves doing it. So what is like, what do I care?
Yeah, there's no right way to work out. There's no like my way is better than yours. There's nothing like that. It's just if it makes you happy and it becomes therapeutic for you, then that's what you choose.
Yeah.
Because I I like go to a different place in my head when I'm training,
Yeah.
and that that's not the same for everyone. There's people who go in and they're miserable there and they can't stop. All they're thinking about is leaving the place.
Mhm.
So you just have to find your environment where you're excited to keep growing in that space, whether that be anything, sports or whatever it is.
Is there anything else you do besides weightlifting? Like, is there any, what other forms of exercise do you enjoy? I guess, like, I love to do
Um,
yoga in my
yeah,
room.
yeah, I don't do yoga. Yoga is hard.
It is hard.
I am
I
like,
do
I was
imagine.
humbled very easily with my aunt. My aunt's like a yoga instructor. So she was like, oh, try it with me. Girl, when I tell you I was sweating, I'm like, I was embarrassed. I like was sweating and shaking
You need
in ways that I
muscular
didn't even know.
endurance for
Yeah.
yoga,
Yeah.
which is,
Especially when, yeah, as a bodybuilder, I'm trying to hold up myself in like a pose where I don't
oh
even
yeah,
fit
no,
into. I'm like, yeah, this is just too much.
no, I
I
know.
mean, I love it was like calm and relaxing when I wasn't in the hard poses. But I used to love like hiking. I just like being outside with friends, like going for walks are huge for me. I don't do a lot of other things. I do spin, like spin class to
Oh,
me is
that's
like,
so fun. It's so
oh,
hard.
it is hard. It is hard, but that's like one of my favorite things is like to just go to a good spin class.
Yeah,
So yeah, just things like that to where I'm like able to move my body in different ways just than the gym. Because
yeah.
it does get tiring and that's why people gym bounce too. Like I gym bounce often just because being in one environment can be like
Mhm.
very taxing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get a little bit like I've had people ask me before, like, don't you get tired of going to the same place every day? And I'm
Yep.
like, well, what have I done my whole life? Every day I went to elementary school and then I went
Mhm.
to middle school and then I went to high school and then I went to college classes and now I go to work every
Right.
day. It's the same thing, but there's also so many gyms now are doing, you can get a day pass or a weekend
Mhm.
pass. There's gym memberships where you can go to different locations. So you're right that the option is there.
Mhm.
You want to switch it up. There's definitely no shortage of gyms in the
Yes.
area.
Yes. It's good to explore. It's always good for the mental just to get out of one spot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm trying now that it's getting warmer out and stuff to take advantage of doing more stuff outside, even if it's like
Mhm.
cardio. Like instead of doing 10 minutes on the Stairmaster at the end of my gym session, I'll go on a 20-minute walk at lunch or
Yeah.
something. Just like getting vitamin D and fresh air,
Mhm.
especially when you're stuck working,
It
is
really does change your mood.
hard. I know. Do
It
you get
changes your
any,
mood.
how long, do you get an hour lunch at work or
I
how,
get 40 minutes.
that's not that bad. So what do you normally
Yeah.
do? Just eat and then
Yeah. I
out?
literally just eat and I just chill. Like I've just been, this year has been a lot
Okay.
because the beginning of the year I like was in my prep for nationals and then I won my pro card. And then so now it's just kind of been like reverse dieting. Then I jumped into my off season. So it's just been like a revolving door of just
Right.
things happening and stimulation.
Right.
So like by the time I'm at my lunch break, after talking all morning to my students and like being there for them, I am like, I just need to be in peace. I literally look like a hermit. I shut my classroom lights off and I sit there and I just eat my meal in silence. And I'm telling you, it's the most blissful 40 minutes of my life. And it's like, it stinks because I like to hang out with coworkers and talk to them and things like that. But then there's just some times where you're like, I just need to shut off for a minute
It's so
because,
funny how opposite
yeah,
our jobs are because I mean, I talk to people when I get on Zoom, but otherwise it's like you could hear a pin drop
yeah,
in my office. So when it's time for lunch, I'm like
yes,
screaming. I'm telling my friends everything.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like, I have been so quiet and sheltered this whole morning. I want to
Mhm.
speak.
Yeah. See, I wish I had that because I'm like, some days it's just like it's a lot of stimulation. It is like it's 19 little lives like needing me. And
Oh,
so it's a lot. I like some days I feel like a mom, some days I feel like a nurse, some days I'm nurse Miss A, I'm teacher Miss A. I'm like, there was this TikTok that like the teacher like changed her hat and there was like nurse, doctor, therapist, cheerleader, like, and I'm like, we wear all of those hats. So by the end of the day, I'm just like exhausted. Like my drive home, I don't even play music. I'm like just 30 minutes of
I
just
have
straight.
had those days. Yep,
Yeah.
where it's like call me a psychopath, but I can't take in anything else. Like my
Yeah, it's
body can't
auditory.
consume anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously though, being a kindergarten teacher is such an important job. First of all, you couldn't pay me to get back into school and teach anyone ever. But everybody remembers their kindergarten teacher.
They
I
do.
remember like, don't ask me about what happened between like first and fifth grade because I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I think at some point I learned long division.
Yeah.
But kindergarten, I remember everything. I remember my teacher, and I think like my teacher still remembers me, like I've run into
Of
her.
course. Yeah,
You
you don't
play
forget.
such an important part. Like you're these people, like my best friend was explaining it. She's a kindergarten teacher. She's like, these people have only been on the earth for like 4 or 5 years. You're like the very first teacher that they're
Yes.
ever going to have in the start of a what 20-year journey.
Yeah. You literally set the foundation, and it's crazy. The things that I teach some days, I'm just like, it's not curriculum based. It's like life skills. Like
Yeah.
like their brains aren't there. Like you have to teach them literally everything.
They don't know
So it's,
anything.
yeah,
Literally do not know anything.
yeah. And some days, like when I really put myself to think about what I do, it's like all encompassing and overwhelming to think about the impact that you truly have. So like I try to make the best of that. I try to do what I can for them because everything I say pours out of them. Like they are literal sponges at this
Oh,
age. This is the most crucial time. Like they say a child before the age of 8, like anywhere from 6 to 8 pretty much, but like before 8 years old, their brains are developing in ways that you will never be able to like unshape them, or like those are the most crucial years. So like I don't take that lightly, and it's just amazing to see like how much they grow. Like even my kids now, they're like so tall, they're so mature, and I'm like, what is going on? Like they become humans into like after, and I'm like, this is crazy.
yeah.
But I love them, and as exhausting as some days it can be, and I know teachers around the world, if anybody's a teacher listening, like we are very undervalued and underpaid, and a lot of teachers are leaving because of that. I completely sympathize with them, and I understand why they're walking out. But then there are those strong ones that are still like trying our best to just continue to do what we love, and so that's kind of hard with everything going on, you know.
Yeah. I feel like that's a common theme. Whereas, like, listen, I mean, I could sit here and be like, I feel like I'm underpaid at my job, which might be the case, but I'm not. At the end of the day, like, when I get super stressed, I'm like, at the end of the day, like, this is what I'm dealing with. Like, I'm telling my brother's going into insurance, and I told him, I was like, you're gonna, there's days you're gonna be really stressed, you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
want to pull your hair out, but at the end of the day, it's just insurance. Who
Mm-hmm.
cares? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, for you guys, this is the foundation of the rest of somebody else's life,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, just like hospital workers and stuff. And I give you guys all the creds because, first of all, I just could not get back into school.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I love it.
My aunt's a third grade teacher. So she was
Oh,
fifth grade
nice.
for a while and then her school changed. So now she's a third grade teacher. And I guess the kids that she has now, their kindergarten was over Zoom. So
Oh,
she was not prepared at how little they knew
mm-hmm.
coming. Like she was like venting last week. Like she was like, I can't believe the amount of shoes I had to tie
It's
last week. Like she was
it's
like, this is not my job. And I was like,
it's a
that's
lot. It's a lot.
yeah. I'm like, but I remember in kindergarten learning how to tie my shoes and we
Yeah.
had to practice in the hallway. And if you couldn't do
Mm-hmm.
it, you couldn't go to lunch until your shoes.
Yeah. That's great.
I know.
Yeah, it's a lot of life skills that it's crazy to think about the things that you teach. It
Yeah.
really is. And it's a very like physically taxing job too.
Oh yeah.
Because like it's not like I have fifth grade where they're independent, and I tell them, okay, everyone, we're going home, like pack up, the buses are here. Like, no, my kids they need help cleaning up sometimes. They need like I just sound like a drill sergeant. Like I feel like when we're lining up at the end of the day, because and also just COVID took such a big hit on the world socially that the students that are coming in are just like they're different. Like
Oh
they
God.
don't they were like part of that COVID generation where like they don't know how to act in school, or so like that those couple of years in between there where we had like Zooms and all that stuff, like that really was a detriment to like just the world. And so teaching that is like a whole different animal after COVID.
I can imagine. Those are the kids that I felt the worst for during COVID. I was like, listen, I'm missing the end of college. And I was like, and that sucks, but I know how to use a computer.
Yeah.
So although I'm probably not getting the best education that I would be, and college is a very important time in your life, I know how to use a computer and I can make it
Mm-hmm.
work. These
Mm-hmm.
kids, like, I can't even imagine as a parent having to sit down and make sure that your child stays in front of a screen for
Yeah.
X amount of, I can't like while doing whatever job I'm sure that they have to do, I can't imagine.
Mhm. I'm like, thank God. God bless that
Mhm.
that's not a thing anymore, because that time was rough. That was like emotionally taxing too, teaching through that, because it was just hard. Like,
I
and then
don't
I felt
know
bad
how
for
you
the
get people to
students
pay
too.
attention on Zoom.
Oh my God, when I tell you the things I would see, just can't even begin. Like, it just unmuting themselves, just calling out in the middle of me like, Miss A, look at my dog. Pulls the huge like Rottweiler. I'm like, oh my God, we're not talking about your dog right now, Jimmy. Like,
The
it
time my
just.
aunt said one kid took his laptop to the bathroom
Mhm.
with him and started pulling down his pants, and she was like, "Oh my God!" Like, and then
Yep.
the kid like realized, but she was like,
Yep.
"Oh," like she was like, "That could have been very bad, and I don't know how to navigate that situation."
You just can't make it up. You just really can't. I had one student, literally must have like served him lunch like as we were on call. I don't know why, but so he literally had a hot dog. He took it out of the bun, and in front of the screen, he's just waving the hot dog, just like playing with them. Like, I just can't. There
Like,
goes the whole lesson.
how do you be the mature one like that's trying to like wrap it
I
all
know.
together when some kid's got his hot dog?
I just can't. I just can't.
Do
You
they
just
know anything? Because I mean, these kids, I mean, they don't know much about anything, literally. But you were in prep, like going like in the beginning of the school year. Do they know anything about what you do in the gym? Because it's
so
physical, like you could
yeah.
physically see a difference.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, they didn't I mean, I guess they met me when I was kind of a little more shredded,
Mhm.
but like, I usually try my best to stay covered up at work. Like, I try to wear loose things, I try to wear oversized things,
Yeah,
just because I just feel more comfortable
yeah,
that way. And it's funny, like when I go in to teach, I'm like not bodybuilder me anymore. I just kind of like focus on just being Miss A.
yeah.
But like, they do notice, like if I take my jacket off, they're like, Miss A, you're what do they call me? Oh, you're buff, Miss A. I'm like,
Oh God,
and they flex with each other all the time. Like, they literally have flex downs. I'm like, can you stop? I'm in the middle of reading a story. So they definitely
that
like
is so
notice it.
cute.
When they draw me with muscle. Like, it's just like the cutest little thing. So they see it and know it. And I also do have like a couple of moms that follow me on Instagram, and
Okay,
like they've told them. So like it
that
is
is
really,
so
really
cute.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. This is like the first year that my students kind of like have been mature enough and aware enough to kind of understand what was going on.
Yeah, I was
Um,
wondering because I'm like it's physical, like you could see,
mhm, mhm.
obviously, but I don't remember at that age what
Yeah,
knowledge. That is so funny. I would keep
it's
those
adorable.
drawings forever. That
Oh
is
my God, it's the best thing ever.
that
They're
is
so funny.
the kids are ruthless. I read to my aunt's third grade class, yeah, last year for Read Across America Day, and they're like,
Mhm.
"How old are you?" And I was like 23, 20. I think it was before my 23rd birthday. So I was like 22, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're old. Do you have kids?" And I'm like, "No."
I
So I could
can't.
just see it like coming
Yes.
into like an off season, them being like, "You gained weight," or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, they thankfully they haven't said it in a bad way, but they definitely see that I have like muscle. They're like, "Whoa, you have," and I'm like, "Oh my God."
I
They're
like
great though.
remember that.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. It's really funny to hear them and like what they say. They are brutally honest. It's actually hilarious.
Yeah. See, that's like the funny part,
Yeah.
though. I mean, I don't know if I could deal with 19 children at once, but sometimes you just gotta laugh. Like they don't
Oh
know that
yes.
what they're saying is not like socially appropriate.
Yep. It's just they have no filter whatsoever. It's the greatest thing.
It's gonna be great for you years down the road, though, when you see these kids like graduate high school and like do
Yeah.
things. Like I just remember my kindergarten teacher when I got to like the end of high school, I ran into her and she was like, I can't like I was her first year of teaching.
Mhm.
She was like, first of all, I'm old. Second, I can't believe like this is what you're going on to do with life.
I know my first year class graduates fifth grade next year. Like, they
Oh,
move up from fifth grade, and I'm like, oh my God, to watch my first class leave the building, like that's gonna be like just surreal. It's gonna be
yeah,
crazy.
that is
Just
insane.
I can't believe it.
I know.
And they're
Time,
just
dude, like you said, time doesn't wait for
fast.
anybody. Yeah, my
It
friend.
is so fast. I'm like, how? I see my students that like were 5 and like having accidents, And now I see them in like fourth grade and they're, you know what I mean, have personalities and they're like cool. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah. Oh
It's
my God.
insane.
It is really rewarding what
It
you
really is.
is there anything that you wanted to bring up that I didn't bring up? Because I loved picking your brain and talking about
Yeah.
these tiny humans.
Tiny humans are great.
You know.
No, not really. Um, I don't know.
No, I think we covered a lot. I was just looking at the time and I was like, I could talk your ear off
I
forever.
know. This was great. I felt like we weren't even on for a while.
I
That's
know. I
crazy.
well, that's why everyone that I ask is like, oh, I'm like, I'm nervous. Like, what should I expect? And I'm like, we're just gonna sit down and talk like
Just talk
we're friends because we are.
because that's just what it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to tell everybody where they could follow you on Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is that you have?
Sure. Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. It's amandadovar654. And then I think my TikTok is the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. What's that?
I said I think it is too because I follow
Yeah,
you.
I think it's the same thing.
Awesome.
Same
And
thing.
I'll link everything. But thank you so much for joining me. I hope everybody go look at Amanda on Instagram so you could put a face uh to the voice. But thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.